Hello everyone, this is video 5, the last in the quantum physics video section. You may or may not be pleased to hear. You may know it's one of my favourite subjects, so I'm always very excited to talk about it. So, where are we with this? Okay, so we've got to the point whereby we understand that or how matter was created. Hopefully you've watched the Big Bang video. The quantum field is a totally invisible field of energy, and every single piece of matter or material object in our universe is comprised of exactly the same 4 elements. These elements are carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and hydrogen. So, that being the case, the obvious question is, well, how is it that I look different to my car or my cat? Well, it is the way that these different elements are combined, and a cat has their elements combined in a slightly different way to the way mine are combined, to the way that my car is combined. And the elements all vibrate at different energy levels when the object is different. So this is an interesting idea. So you've got 4 basic components. And from the quantum field, it is just as easy to create anything. It's just as easy to create a house as it is to create a person, as it is to create a sack of wonga. And we know this because that all matter is nothing more than vibrating energy. It is totally insubstantial. So think about that for a moment. It's all vibrating energy. It's insubstantial, and actually it's a bit like a puff of steam, or it's a bit like a waft of smoke. Interesting idea, isn't it? So everything is made of atoms, even the air that you breathe. And you can't touch the air that you breathe. In fact, you can't touch anything. I'll tell you about that a little bit later. So we've talked a lot about atoms. We've talked about how atoms are made up or created, or what they're made up of. And almost all of the mass of an atom is actually contained within its nucleus. So what this means is that 99% of all matter is actually empty space, including me, including you. I already knew that about myself, to be honest, especially in my brain. It's interesting though, isn't it? This empty space. How is it that there's so much empty space in stuff? Matter. A car. A person. A dog. A snake. A door. A building. It's kind of weird. We sort of have to think of it, as I mentioned earlier, as this big puff of smoke or a puff of steam. We can't actually touch it. And the weird thing is, if somebody sort of tried to pick away or break down our body into a teeny tiny little atom by atom, they tried to take it away, actually we'd just be left with a small pile of sand, which basically means that you're just one sneeze away from vanishing. It's quite an idea, isn't it? So, how is it if 99% of every atom, so 99% of everything we touch is actually empty space? So, how is it that it feels hard when I knock on a wooden door, or when I touch a wall, or how is it possible for me to sit in my chair, or how is it possible for me to touch another person? Well, the magnetic forces of matter repel each other when they become very, very, very close. And I can't remember what this measurement is called, but it's something like 100 millionth of a centimetre or something, maybe a little bit less. So effectively what happens is the actual sensation of touch is actually electromagnetic repulsion as you come within this tiny, teeny tiny distance of another piece of matter. So just as you could be sneezed away, although I wouldn't wish that on anyone, you're actually floating in your chair right now if you're sitting down watching this. Well, apparently this lady doesn't even have a body, and yet, so be it, she's definitely floating. She doesn't have legs. You're also not really touching your keypad when you type, and you're not really touching your iPhone, and you're not actually really touching doors when you knock on them, even though sometimes it can feel really hard, because that repulsion, that electromagnetic repulsion, is really, really strong when the matter has a different vibration to you. So without that repulsion, effectively, we'd all be floating around the universe like untethered balloons, which is quite a nice idea. And actually, there are some people I'd like to put in that untethered balloon. But here it is. You're floating in your chair. You're not touching other matter. And the weird thing is that you'll have seen, I mean, even on the beginning of the quantum linguistics presentation, there are pictures of atoms as they're presented to us in physics textbooks. And the weird thing is, they don't actually look like that at all. Because the really, really bizarre thing about atoms is that the electrons outside of the atoms, the ones that are, supposed to be moving around in those elliptical spheres, they actually pop in and out of existence the whole time. And effectively, an electron can jump from one orbit to another instantly without traversing or crossing the distance from one location to another. Which is kind of bizarre because it's a bit like a giant Where's Wally? In my head, that's the way I like to think of it. It's kind of like, where's Wally? And as well as vanishing, Wally can also appear out of nowhere and then disappear again at random. And even more bizarre is that physicists believe that the electron is actually in another dimension, which again I have a little bit of difficulty fathoming, and I'm in there with them. I'm like, yeah, okay, I can sort of get my head around this. And think of it this way: have you ever looked for your keys and you look in the normal place and they're not there, and then you go back and actually they are there? Interesting, isn't it? Have you ever had one of your children or your partner look for their socks in a cupboard or a drawer and they go, oh, they're just not there, they're not there. And then you go and look and they're exactly where you thought they were, where you expected them to be. Interesting, interesting, interesting. So, whether it's your socks or whether it's your keys or whether we live in one big giant world of where's Wally, effectively, it's a big old illusion. Because this amazing illusion that we have been living in forever, for our entire lives, is that matter is this kind of pre-existing thing or stuff, whereas actually the quantum field is entirely steamy and smoky, and actually it just has an infinite number of atoms all kind of floating around in a bit of a smoky mass. And what you're really doing, this is a really bad hair day for me, is you're kind of just working with those atoms. And if we get it right, and it's a big if, isn't it? I mean, we know how powerful we are, and yet if we get it right, and we get into alignment with what we truly desire, subconsciously, if we can get in alignment and we get all of that right, then what we're doing is we are putting the scientific law of attraction into action. And we are so powerful. In the last video, I told you that the energy in you right now is the equivalent of 30 atomic bombs. Oh my goodness. I mean, just imagine how powerful we will be when we learn to direct that energy fully. It's pretty exciting. And even more exciting is the fact that this electromagnetic energy acts as this kind of giant super magnet, and you're magnetically attracting every other like or similar energy vibration. And matter is constantly on the move all over the universe, and it's moving towards other attractive or like energy expectations. And your expectations and your thoughts, well, I like to think of them as my fridge with a load of different fridge magnets, all sort of attracting different things that I want. They are constantly attracting the like vibration. They are constantly attracting and repelling matter, which effectively means that every single one of us, actually, forget us, every single item of matter in the universe is both attractive and repulsive, all at the same time, depending upon vibration. So our expectations are super, super powerful, and they are like giant super magnets, creating and attracting and matching the energy vibration from this huge potential in the quantum field. So this is brilliant, isn't it? Well, it is. And the only way that we want to direct our focus is to understand that sometimes our expectations do not equal our conscious desires. And it's always useful to remember that our values and our beliefs are always driving our expectations. And when our values and beliefs, our unconscious, subconscious values and beliefs are out of alignment with our conscious dreams and desires, we don't get what we quite expect. In fact, we get something a little bit upside down, and it's deeply, deeply, deeply frustrating. So, obviously, the work that we're doing with a lot of timeline therapy, with emotional release, with belief change, with value shifts, is allowing somebody to truly, I guess, perfect is a poor use of word, tailor the vibration of their unconscious values and beliefs in order to match their conscious desires. That is the work we are doing. And please, please, I know you know this by now, be aware that our unconscious and our subconscious supersedes and overpowers our conscious every single time. So, it's a pretty exciting idea. Most of our beliefs serve us really, really well, and the wonderful thing is that we can actually change our beliefs. We can shift our values. We can do all sorts of remodeling and renovation work in our unconscious, subconscious mind. This is pretty exciting because your subconscious commands the quantum field. And I don't know about you, but to be honest, it makes me feel a little bit like this. And that is pretty exciting. This is the end of the quantum physics section, end of video 5. I hope you have enjoyed it. I hope you now have an understanding that allows you to feel so much more clear, enthusiastic, positive, and aligned with this fantastic and scientific law of attraction. Speak to you soon. Bye.